Hi, it's Marcus from Next Gen Critics, and today I'm going to be reviewing Uncharted: Drake's Fortune on the PS3. As you may know, this is basically a launch title for the PS3, but I've recently played the Uncharted 2 multiplayer beta and I loved it, so I decided to pick this up. Okay, let's get on with the review. Okay, first I'm going to go over the story. There are three main characters. You've got Elena Fisher, Nathan Drake, and Victor Sullivan. You only ever play as Drake, but the other two characters have just as big of a part in the story. So first of all, you got Nathan, who's just the general hothead treasure hunter. You've got Elena Fisher, who's a news reporter who gets it in a bit too deep. And you've got Victor Sullivan, who is basically just I think a friend of Nathan Drake who's in it for the gold, basically. The story follows these three characters as they search for the treasure of El Dorado. The actual story behind El Dorado never gets too deep, and the actual main story is never too deep, but there's some really, really good character development during this, and by the end of it I really did feel for these characters. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about the graphics. Now the graphics, considering this was a release title game, are absolutely amazing. I mean, I don't know, the water effects, the trees, everything just looks really, really nice. Another thing I thought was pretty cool is that the clothes actually get wet when you enter the water. I mean, this was a really nice touch, to be honest, and it was pretty amazing the first time I saw it. Something I should say is that the game looks samey towards the end. I mean, it's all jungly, there's not really ever that much change of scene. I mean, it's a minor complaint, though. Another thing is that the game does have really bad texture pop-in, and I mean really bad. Sometimes if you just enter a new area, it can take maybe 30 seconds to load all the textures up. Okay, so the gameplay on Uncharted is basically half platformer and puzzle solver, and half duck and cover third-person shooter. Now, to me, the platforming and the puzzle solving never really seemed to be hard enough, because basically all you had to do was hold the left stick in a certain direction, and if Drake reached out his arm, that meant you could jump to something, then you press X. Occasionally an item would start to fall away, but it'd be easy enough to get to the next bit. And I don't think I really ever died doing the platforming. And with the puzzles, all you really had to do was rotate a few objects so they matched the pictures in Francis Drake's journal. So they weren't really ever too hard either. Now, where the challenge really comes in is definitely in the shootouts. Basically, you hold L1 to aim and R1 to fire, circle to get into cover, and circle to dodge if you're not in cover. I found on the normal difficulty that the enemies would be just the right difficulty to give you some challenge but not be annoyingly hard. The shooting and the aiming generally works well. One problem I do have, though, is that you have to switch to the grenades as an actual weapon before you can throw them, rather than just pressing, say, the L trigger as you do on most shooters. I really haven't got much more to say about the gameplay, so let's move on to my final verdict. Now will probably be a good time to say that I don't really think there is too much replay value in this game. I do know some people that have played through it on normal, then hard, then crushing, and tried to get all the trophies, but I really don't see a point in replaying this, the story, and with no online or multiplayer to speak of, I really don't think you would want to play this too many times. That isn't to say that the single-player campaign isn't enjoyable, because it's probably one of the best games I've played lately, and I'll be happy to give it an 8.5 out of 10.